First off, it's good that John Henry has come out and taken responsibility, accepted that this was him. It's not a Liverpool football thing. It's a decision that was taken by him and him alone, the owner, and it's not something that Jurgen or anybody else within the football club was involved in. So it's good that he's come out with that, because the initial statement at 11 p.m. was very, very short, 47 words, I believe. Accepted no responsibility. There was no apology of any type. So it's good that he has actually come out with a full video apology. Whether that's enough, I'm not sure, really. I think that many people will say that the bridges have been burned now, really. That anything that Fenway Sports Group and John Henry has done that has been positive for Liverpool over the last decade has really now been tarnished. Their legacy is always going to be that they attempted what, Steve Parish, the Crystal Palace chairman, has rightly said has really been a bit of a coup on the English and European game.
You speak to a lot of fans, so what's the relationship between fans and owners? Has that been irrevocably damaged? And what does that mean? Do you think Jamie Carragher said he had to go? Do you think we're sort of moving towards that stage?
We're looking at almost 10 years of Fenway owning Liverpool now, and what they've done for the club has been, on the whole, very, very good. They've given us this brand new main stand, which was a multiple decade problem for the club. Anfield will be 60,000 seat stadium in a couple of years. Appointed Jurgen Klopp, won the Premier League, won the Champions League, got a new training ground, and all of those things that have been absolutely fantastic for the club should be what fans remember them for. But unfortunately, this is just sort of a burned bridge and tarnishing everything that they've done. It's undone a lot of good work. I'm not sure that they can come back from this. There certainly will never be the trust in them. Sceptical fan will forever be there, because they've undone any trust, any respect, any goodwill that they had from the supporters. As for Jamie Carragher's sort of opinion that he has to go, the problem that you have there is who else comes in. Liverpool are, reportedly we're maybe looking at $2 billion to buy the club from them. Anybody that has that kind of money is not exactly going to be fantastic owners. We're talking better than the devil almost. So I'm not sure that you can kind of get rid of them. And John Henry in his statement has said that he wants to keep working at Liverpool and that his work isn't done. So I don't think they're looking to walk away just yet. They have new investment coming in from a new deal that was negotiated very recently. So I think that we might just have to live with them for a little bit longer, because the alternative could be just as bad, if not worse.
Do you think a good transfer window with some really big signings could be the way to rebuild a few of the damaged bridges?
Look, football fans, as we know, are relatively fickle on the whole. Not all, but some. And you can repair bridges by giving the fans what they want quite often. But I think that always that trust is not going to be there. The respect is gone. So no matter what happens in terms of the transfer market, that's not going to paper over the cracks, so to speak, in the relationship that's been now very fractured. Obviously, everybody wants to see good players arrive into the club, and that would help. But it doesn't mean that anybody's going to start trusting these guys or forget what has happened over the last 48 hours.
I think the whole European Super League is an inevitable conclusion of their attempts to sell Liverpool to a global audience and concentrate that money that's in the Champions League into even fewer hands.
Yeah, I think the main problems were, one, that it was a closed shop and the 15 clubs could never be removed. That means that they're guaranteed the money. Is very much an American style setup, and it becomes a bit more franchised, which is not what anybody in Europe, and especially not in England, and especially not here in Liverpool, wanted. The other issue, obviously, is that you're pushing out all the other clubs that aren't there. It's kind of capitalism. It's a microcosm of society in many ways. But I think that what we've all kind of forgotten is that on Monday, UEFA actually pushed through Champions League reform, which has a very similar-ish setup to the Super League without the founding fathers kind of concept aspect to it. So the Super League in many ways is here, just under a different name, and obviously fans groups now have spoken about this being sort of the start of more fan activism, and that's really what's going to be needed to make true reform, political lobbying and supporters showing that they have a voice. 48 hours, fans actually got together. It was something that united supporters from both ends of the East Lancs and down to London and Chelsea and everywhere else. So it shows that fan activism, when we all pull together, can work.
Now, as a Liverpool fan, you've grown up as a Liverpool fan, you've been a Liverpool fan all your life. How do you and the readers of This Is Anfield feel about being described as legacy fans?
I think that obviously that's only come from one journalist, and it's not sort of an established fact that we are regarded as legacy fans, but it's certainly one of the sticking points, and I think that is one thing that will always be there now. We will always remember the legacy fan aspect, and it's just so disrespectful to the fans that have built up this football club over decades and decades, and that are the lifeblood of the club, that are fans that go to the games. I think that it's going to be a joke now forever. I'm a legacy fan, you're a legacy fan, you're not a legacy fan, whatever it is. And that is something that has just completely broken the relationship between those legacy fans. And the irony is that had they consulted with some legacy fans before making this attempt, they'd have realised that it was never going to happen, that there would have been the backlash that there has been. What it needs really is it needs a legacy fan to actually be on the board, and that they actually consult with. The problem is that Fenway Sports Group know plenty of legacy fans. They appointed one to be that at Liverpool and support liaison, but they didn't consult with him. They didn't consult with Jurgen Klopp or anybody else. Had they could have saved themselves this problem, saved themselves the bad PR, and actually prospered for it. But they keep making these mistakes by not consulting. Consult before making the decision, not afterward.
So, what's your opinion of the way Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola and Thomas Tuchel, Ryan Mason, these managers who've been left to face what has been quite a backlash?
Yeah, it's a disgrace that the managers were the ones that had to front up to this. They absolutely had no inclination of it. They learned about it the same way we did, with a statement at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. It just shows the shoddy practice. We're talking about something that was meant to be a £6 billion investment, yet it was an 11 o'clock statement, nothing official, no word from anybody for over 48 hours, no video statement, no press conference. It was just here's a website and a statement, and that kind of shows how shoddily done it was, despite the finances involved. And to leave it to the managers, Jurgen Klopp, to have to speak about it less than 24 hours after this statement was put out it's such disrespect for the people they employ. If I was Jurgen Klopp, that would be where my anger would be focused. It should be focused on the fact that your employer has just thrown you under the bus and put you out there, and not even being the public face in any way, shape or form himself, made you speak on a subject that you have absolutely no involvement in.
We then also look at the reaction to the Liverpool players. There's been a real unity, and they've been very outspoken, the Liverpool players. What's your thoughts on the reaction of them?
We've seen with the effects of the pandemic over the last year that Jordan Henderson is a leader, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch as well, with the way that he's been instrumental in the food banks, the NHS, the collectivism that he's driven there with Premier League captains, and the way that Liverpool's players coordinated their response to this with coordinated messaging on social media prior to the announcement that Liverpool were to withdraw from the Super League. I'm sure that Jordan Henderson was the driving force behind that, and he deserves a lot of credit for it. It shows that actually despite these millionaire footballers being sort of on a different page to the fans in many ways, they're also actually understanding and realise what's going on here. And we know that sporting integrity needed to be maintained, and I think that's the big issue here. And that even as a player, you want to be able to feel like you've achieved something through sporting merit, and that you won it by working hard, what you achieved, not by just the fact that your club happened to sign a contract that meant you were in the competition for 20 years. You know, Liverpool could have theoretically finished 20th in the Super League, 17th in the Premier League, and yet still qualified for the elite competition in Europe. You know, that's not what any player wants either. So the response from the Liverpool players has been good, and hopefully now they show that they're going to be like that about more than this issue and other issues that fans need their support on.
What sort of backlash can you see happening? Can you see fans boycotting games, or will it return to normal quickly? How do you see fans' reaction?
The fans' reaction now is going to be very interesting, because with a lot of things like this, not just with football, and quite often, you know, football is just a microcosm of society and the wider issues within society, that things happen, they get swept under the bus, and then people forget about it. And 48 hours later, it's, you know, the old saying used to be about yesterday's news is tomorrow's chip paper. But whether that continues now, obviously the fans have no ability to be able to protest in terms of inside the stadium or anything like we saw a few years ago with Liverpool fans organising a very effective boycott or protest against rising ticket prices. However, now that's what's been shown is that collective fan activism can get you somewhere. You know, within less than 48 hours between the two statements, fans did that. Fan activism, media pressure did that. So it's proven that they can have a voice and that they can impact change. So really now what needs to happen is that they take this understanding that they can make change and use it on other issues that have been maybe not tackled in the same manner over the last few years and that do need to be addressed. You know, on the wider scale, there's the Qatar World Cup, the issues that are surrounding that, the issues to do with ticket prices, kick-off times that fans have absolutely no control or involvement in. There's a number of issues that fans would like to see change on, and now they've proven that they can have change. Let's see if that can actually happen on other issues too.
Do you think that we could be seeing the end of tribalism? Because the unity that's been shown, yeah, people will support their own club, but something like this, fans have seen the collective power that we have. Do you think we might see fans coming together a little bit more as we go forward?
I think that tribalism in football is both the beauty and the beast in many ways. It's what makes it unique. It makes it that affinity that you have to your club. Now, there has been fan groups working together collectively for the greater good over the last decade or more. I think that now maybe what's happening or could happen is that wider audience, a bigger amount of supporters realise that they can work together and that there is a common goal for football supporters, and it's not about Liverpool or Everton or Man United, Manchester City, Chelsea. It comes down to just being a football person, a football supporter, and that these issues need tackling together rather than alone, and that collectively the voice is much stronger. And again, that comes down to many issues just within society, not just within football. But whether that happens, whether people forget about it, you know, only time will tell. But hopefully more people have realised that for certain aspects of football, the tribalism needs to be put to a side and we need to work collectively and united.
And then finally, should the clubs be punished, and what punishment would you foresee?
Obviously, from a Liverpool perspective, I don't want my club to be punished, but if they were, I could completely, utterly understand it. You know, it wouldn't be fair to the players, to Jurgen Klopp, to the supporters, but then it's not fair when clubs go into administration. You know, we've seen it with many, not the elite, they're not the top six, but many other clubs where they've been deducted points or relegated or whatever it may be, and that's not fair on them, but they didn't have any say in it. It was a move by the owners, so I could see the reasons for that, and I couldn't begrudge that. However, I don't think that it'll happen, because the Premier League and UEFA and the Champions League, they need these elite clubs to make their product what it is. Without them, they're not as good, they're not as big. So, sort of fortunately from one aspect and one point of view, I don't think it'll happen. But also unfortunately, because really there does need to be something that shows these owners, not these football clubs, because it wasn't a football club making the decision, it was these owners, it was a few very, very wealthy businessmen making a decision that they didn't consult anybody on. It needs to show these owners that they can't just do what they would like to do without consulting and without showing integrity to the game that has been there long before them and will be there long after them.
What we've seen with UEFA and the farce that was financial fair play, that effectively they talk a good game but very, very rarely deliver on that. Do you think that they would look to ban these 16 clubs next year for one season as there's your punishment, or just think it's going to be a fine?
It's been suggested that UEFA might, ban these clubs that were involved in a sort of breakaway, but I can't see that happening, because UEFA know that their product would be massively devalued without them being in the competition, and if anything then it would actually probably mean that a breakaway would happen, maybe in a different format, maybe they would change the setup of it. So I think that UEFA have already sort of said that they will welcome them back into the family, so to speak. But I can't see them punishing them in terms of a ban. We've seen that UEFA's integrity isn't the best either, and we're going to have to hopefully tackle that one next.